Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to all of you watching on our YouTube channel or listening on to one of our streaming services. This is episode 56 of Retirement Straight Talk with Paul and William. My name is Paul Barreca, and here with my associate advisor, William Barreca. And today, we got a really interesting topic, a topic that I found is very, very misunderstood. And that is what an advisor should be doing to earn their fees and to actually add value to their clients. And again, I found it in my 3 decades plus in this business, there's often misconceptions. So we're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about what those misconceptions are today. We're going to talk about these 6 parts to an effective financial plan according to FP Canada, which is Financial Planning Canada. We've added a few more, by the way. We're going to talk about how investors are often charged for services that are not provided, and statistical research on the 4 major areas that a professional experienced advisor should add value and how much value that should be. And by the way, just want to remind everyone, we have our upcoming white paper available hopefully in the next few weeks on how to create a great retirement plan and how not to ruin it. Again, one of the things I found is that there are many obstacles in the way of success in your financial plan. This report talks mostly about them, so you actually are successful with your financial plan. And Will, I'd like your thoughts on this one. My thoughts are that many watching today will agree with probably everything we have to say rationally, but when push comes to shove, often, they may fall back to the default beliefs and actions, and that can cost them money. And they may even not know that it's costing them money. So what are some of these misconceptions that...
First, to set it up more, this is a really important topic. And it's important for us to, I think, raise awareness about this because I think financial planning across Canada, like you said, it's grossly misunderstood largely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's largely because of just the services that people are being given. Financial planning is not being thrown into a mutual fund and then never being spoken to or just being called around RSP season to make a contribution. And unfortunately, I think that's what most people's perception of financial planning is, because that's what unfortunately, a great majority of advisors just do across the country. And that's because it's easy. Real financial planning takes a lot of work and you don't get any additional revenue from it.
Yeah, as an advisor, the stuff that we'll talk about this that really adds value to the client is time consuming and not revenue generating. But that's the things that really need to be done.
Yeah. And to your point about whether people are going to agree with us, and I think like you said, intuitively they will, but the hard part is the portfolio, that's instant. It's instant gratification. You get to see your portfolio. Yeah. How much is it going up? Is it dropping? That's instant gratification. Whereas a lot of the things we're going to get into shortly here, it's long-term stuff. These are planning issues that they don't pay off tomorrow necessarily. It takes several years. They're extremely important and can be a lot more important to your bottom line than a portfolio, but it's not instant like building a portfolio.
Not only years, but sometimes decades.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like building a business. You don't build a business over 6 months or a year or 2. You build a business over decades. Yeah. That's how success. And the same thing is with your finances. So, and by the way, it's not uncommon where some people come to us and you can tell they don't really want to hear about the rest of it. They just want to get to the bottom line. How much money did I make? How much money? Yeah, that's all good. But how much money did I make? Without understanding that the other factors may actually be more important to them.
Yeah. So maybe the first thing you want to talk about today is just goal setting. That should be one of the first things any advisor does with you is just, what do you want to accomplish? It's hard to plan for you if you don't know what the client wants to accomplish.
Well, first, I just wanted to let people know what financial planning is according to FP Canada. And FP Canada is short for Financial Planning Canada, and that's the organization that provides the certified financial planning designation that you and I have, and it requires all sorts of requirements for due diligence and client first and so forth. And just quickly, what they say are the 6 important issues are retirement planning, which we're going to get into, portfolio planning, insurance and risk management, estate planning, tax planning, cash flow. So that's according to FP Canada, not us. Now, we're going to add some other things to that. But why don't we just start right into the retirement plans that you were getting into there, Will?
Well, not specific to retirement planning. That is one of the goals, but just again, financial planning isn't being thrown into a mutual fund without knowing the person's goals and aspirations. It's what do you want to see for your family tomorrow, next year, and into several decades. So it's important to sit down, map out their goals, refine them, put dollars and timeframes behind them. It's a crucial first step to any proper financial planning.
Yeah, and people may say, oh, why bother planning? You know, I kind of know in my mind. But the statistics and the resources are crystal clear on this. When you plan, your chances of success increase substantially, not a little bit, substantially. And when you have a written plan, the chances of that success, again, mushroom. This is not just you or me. This is proven. Just read any business book. It's absolutely proven. And you can say there's an interesting article I found from Harvard Business Review, and it's titled, "You May Hate Planning, but You Should Do It Anyway." And it talks about how planning is the canary. And what does that mean? In the old days, the miners used to bring canaries down in the mines because sometimes the canaries would die. And that told the miners that there's not enough oxygen down there. There's something wrong. We had to get the hell out of here. So planning is the canary. And, Warren Buffett has a great quote. He says, an idiot with a plan can beat a genius without a plan. And us in the business, we know how true that is, isn't it?
Yeah. So maybe the next planning aspect you want to talk about is insurance, Paul?
Yeah, risk management and insurance. I mean, again, we have a plan. Let's assume you have a plan. Well, what you want to do is create the environment that's going to make the chances of the success of that plan much greater. Well, I mean, if you're in a situation where you don't have insurance and something happens to someone in the family, maybe they get a critical illness and they can't work for a year, or they die, or they can't work. That financial plan, you may as well throw it in the toilet, flush it right down, because it's probably not going to happen. But often with pennies, you can create risk management insurance programs that will help avoid that. And it's amazing to me why we still run and see people who are just dead set against that. They just don't want to pay an insurance company, no matter what it does. Yet, let's say if it takes 2% of your paycheck to cover off those items. I mean, if your employer came to you and said, well, we're reducing your pay by 2%, but if you get disabled, we're going to keep paying you. And if something were to happen to you, if you become critically ill, we're going to pay you a lump sum to keep you going. Or if you die, even worse, we're going to pay your family a lump sum of money tax-free so they can stay in the same world. For 2%, I can't imagine anyone saying no to that.
Yep. So that's where the planner comes in here, is just assessing your individual or your family's specific circumstances to help identify those risks and the appropriate insurance to help mitigate against those risks. And again, I think the problem with this is it's a discussion a lot of people don't want to have. No one likes to think about them dying prematurely or getting an illness or disability, and that's completely understandable. Another thing is people think, oh, it'll never happen to them. And
it'll never happen to them.
The harsh reality is that it does happen. Obviously, you hope that it never does happen, but that's the whole point of insurance, to prevent against catastrophic events from happening.
Spread the risk.
Yep.
I think I shared this story before. I went to my high school a pub night. It was like 40th anniversary. This was a number of years ago. I think I was 60. And look, there's a dozen or so people from my graduating class that I hadn't seen in 40 years. And we started talking about the people that had died. And about 6 to 7% of all the people we knew were dead at age 60. And that really blew my mind. 6 to 7, that's not a small number. And I looked at the mortality tables, and that was bang on the averages. That is not a small number. It's not like 0.000%. So these things do happen. And boy, how many people have come to us once they get sick looking for insurance? It's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late, isn't it?
So next, do you want to talk about the investments?
Well, I just want to quickly talk about the business owner there. Again, if you're a business owner, a lot of things come into play with risk management. Also, business continuation. You may have spent your lifetime building up the value of a business that revolves around you. Without risk management, if something happens to you, all the value that you may have created over decades may go down the toilet overnight. And to me, that's absolutely nuts not to put in some mitigation in there to avoid that. So where are we going next year, Will?
Why don't we go over the investments now? And I think maybe at the top of the show, we were somewhat downplaying the role that investment management plays in financial planning. And investment management is still obviously a very important role of what financial planning is.
Yeah, sure.
But not probably in the sense that most people think it is. Like a financial planner shouldn't be a broker where they're picking up on hot stock tips and things of that nature. The real value they provide lies in crafting a personalized investment portfolio which aligns with your specific financial goals, and then acting as a behavior coach to make sure you stay committed to that plan.
Behavior. I love that. And by the way, it's way easier than most people think. And you know that portfolio plan does not have to be complicated at all. It does not have to be high cost at all. Matter of fact, the lower the cost and the simpler the plan, and again, the evidence is crystal clear, the better it is, the more return you're going to get. And I don't know, do you want to talk about how we do that, Will, or how we feel it should be done? Or do you want to just talk about some of the sublines things? Maybe just talk about things like diversification. You've already mentioned how stock picking doesn't add a lot of value. The job of the advisor is to make sure you have the portfolio that's going to help you reach your goals, right? If your retirement plan says you need 5% return, well, you need to build your investment portfolio that should hopefully provide 5% return. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
So once that portfolio is picked, again, behavior, like we said, that's a huge value add a planner can provide. Helps you avoid getting caught up in short-term market trends that could derail your financial progress. Basically tuning out the noise, especially nowadays with social media. We all have cell phones in our pocket that we're looking at all the day. There's so much noise. So you need to work with a good planner who can help you see past those headlines and cultivate discipline and a sense of security, really, knowing that you have a well thought out financial plan in place that will help you reach the goals you set for yourself.
Yeah, and people want to save money on fees, and of course everyone does. I do too. But here's the thing: a planner's value can often come in short spurts, but that value in those short spurts can be incalculable. So here's an example. During COVID, markets dropped like a stone over a very short period. I know from reading the papers, it wasn't uncommon for people to make rash decisions, bail out of the market, sometimes maybe at the absolute worst time. Doing that, rather than listening to your advisor that would have told you to stay the course, that likely would have cost that person 10, maybe 20 years worth of fees. For an example, we can take a look again. A year and a half ago, when interest rates were gone up after the bad year, 2022 is a rotten year in the markets. Everyone knows that. Well, instead of diving into a 5% GIC, which sounded really good at the time, just keeping your portfolio as it was, you would have earned double digits the next year, likely, if it was a decently crafted portfolio. Well, those are the type of ways where the advisor, when you least expect, should be providing value. And by the way, an advisor should not be just doing what you tell them to do. If they are, they're not worth any money.
They shouldn't be yes men. They should push against you when it's warranted. Sometimes you need that.
Absolutely.
You want to talk? I know this is one of your favorite topics, tax planning.
Oh, I have many favorite topics. And this is, boy, what happened recently with the increase in the capital gains inclusion rate. That what that really talks to is the necessity for ongoing review of your plans because stuff changes. Stuff changes in the tax world. Stuff changes in terms of what you and your family or your business, what's right for them. I mean, if you think back 5, 10 years ago, I'm guessing that what you would have thought is important to you back then is different than today. So that's why your plan needs to change. And I often find that people, they kind of, they think, yeah, I want to pay less tax rationally. But when push comes to shove, they don't often make the changes necessary. They don't make the changes in their portfolio to lower distributions and therefore lower taxes. If they're a business owner, they avoid sometimes RSP contributions because they say, RSPs, I got to pay tax on them later, without understanding that they're probably going to end up with more money in their pocket after tax during retirement by putting their money into a registered plan like an RSP or an individual pension plan than putting it into their corporate passive investment account in many circumstances. You can show it to them, you can show the numbers to them, and they go, yeah, it looks good, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing now. That type of behavior is not uncommon with tax planning. And again, if you look at the erosion that taxes cost on over decades, it is massive, massive, massive.
Yeah, so your advisor should be talking to you about all this income planning, deductions, credits. Like you mentioned, what account is most tax optimal to invest in based upon your circumstances. That's a big part of financial planning. Do you want to go into retirement planning now?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we talked a little about this before. Again, why bother? Well, because if you don't plan, what's going to happen?
I mean, just from the start, retirement planning, it needs a thorough analysis of your financial situation. So your planner should be reviewing your assets, what income sources you have, what expenses and debts exist, what your portfolio can reasonably be expected to achieve in terms of a long-term return. And then this helps to produce an idea of what your current financial standing is and what needs to happen in the future to reach your goals, what gaps exist, and what customized plan do you need. And like you said, it's not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process that requires regular monitoring and adjustments.
That's what the advisor needs to do to earn his keep. Let's talk about estate planning for a little bit. Sure. And again, we mentioned before, people don't like talking about estate. Some people are very hesitant to talk about estate planning. But, there's where a good advisor who's earning the keep is going to spend time and they'll ask for your wills. Can we get copies of your wills? They're going to talk about whether you're equalizing your estate among your children, assuming that's what you want to do. They're going to talk to you about various joint accounts. This is a question we often get. Should I put this asset in joint with my child? Well, there's a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons against that. And every situation is unique based on every family, the dynamics in a family. Those need to be discussed. That's one of the things the advisor should be doing to earn their keep. Yeah. Do they own property? Are they owned incorrectly? That could create problems down the road, either tax problems or maybe family problems. Here's one of the things that can happen if you don't have your estate set up problems. Your kids can fight because the parents didn't outline what they're going to do ahead of time, why they're going to do it. So then it's left for the kids to figure out. And unfortunately, the kids' spouses get involved. And sometimes it can be the biggest disaster there is. Again, the advisor should be a good advisor, earning their keep, earning their fees, should be talking to their clients about things of this nature, about probate fees, minimizing taxes in their estate, taking care of those with extra needs, maybe the kids with special needs, parents with special needs, and so forth. So very, very important.
Well, just before we wrap up the estate planning part, I think another common misconception is that estate planning, it's just for very wealthy individuals, but it's an essential process for everyone, regardless of their financial status. Like a well-crafted estate plan, it's not just about distributing your assets, it's making sure your wishes are honored. So what you want to happen actually happens. And your loved ones are protected. So a well-crafted estate plan includes, if you have minor children, if something happens to you, who's going to take care of them? It can be something, pets are a big part of many people's families. If something happens to you, who's going to take care of your pets? If you become incapacitated, who's your power of attorney? Who's going to make decisions on your behalf? So estate planning, and not just for the very wealthy, everyone needs a well-crafted estate plan. All right, so we went over a lot of stuff today, and I think the last thing a planner should be doing in this process is bringing it all together, insurance, retirement, tax planning, estate planning, for a comprehensive financial plan, because a good plan brings all these together in a plan that's best for you and your life and the goals you want to achieve. And it doesn't just stop there. Once it's done once, like a financial plan should be a living, breathing document that gets updated when your income changes, if your benefits at work change, you get married, or maybe you get divorced, have kids, start a business, any big life change happens, your financial plan needs to change to adapt to that. And
wealth planning is just to say, wealth planning, you're right, is a lifelong process that starts today and ends the day everyone's 6 feet underground.
Yeah. And I mean, and also to carry this out, they should be talking to your other professionals to make sure everyone's aware of the strategies, whether it's your accountant, your lawyers, certain business owners have different specialists as well. So your planner should be coordinating this plan with all your other professionals to make sure they're aware and all the cogs in the machine are working in a cohesive way. And I guess if your planner isn't doing many of the things we've spoken about today, you're likely paying fees for services that you're not receiving.
You're not getting.
Financial planning is more than just putting you in a mutual fund. Proper financial planning, it's all the things we spoke about today. If your planner isn't doing that, you're honestly probably better off going to Wealthsimple at the end, because or a robo-advisor, because you're paying fees for services that you're not receiving.
I want to remind everyone about our soon to be released white paper. And that white paper, we spent a lot of time on this. It's called How to Create a Great Retirement Plan and How Not to Ruin It. And it's going to talk about the things that you hear about a lot, how to determine how much money you'll have and how to fund the gap. But it's also going to spend a lot of time on different things. It talks about, here are the things, the obstacles that can happen in the way. And here's how they can ruin your plan for you. And they're often things that are not obvious to the individual. So when that comes out, make sure we're going to offer that for free to people. Make sure you do that. Moving forward, our next podcast, hey, this is going to be a fun one. How to raise money smart children. And this is something that William really wanted to talk about. I think it's a great topic. If you get kids started right, they're probably going to be successful. Wouldn't you say, Will?
Well, Paul, it seems like you have firsthand experience doing that. So you have a wealth of experience to give to the listeners there. That'll be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. Thanks everyone for listening. Follow both Paul and I on our socials on LinkedIn and X. Links to that are in the show notes. And if you feel like starting a conversation with either of us, you can also book a call using the link in the show notes as well. So thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks, Paul, and we'll be back in a couple weeks.
Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.